Hot Atlanta. A chance for the Commanders and their fans to put the bad taste from the Bears game to bed.
Let's go! Get this done!
Yeah! Let's get this W! Yeah!
Bobby Brown was in the house, a blast from the past. But it was the Commanders' quarterback of the future who threw 3 touchdowns. The D from the DMV showed up and showed out, especially when it mattered most. And Washington got a much-needed dub. Analyzing the win at Atlanta and looking ahead to the Giants' opportunity Sunday on this Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus.
The man
Call somebody,
is back,
call
y'all.
somebody.
We're
He's
back.
back. Call
He's
your
back.
mama, call your
Tony
daddy.
is back, and we're back.
We're
back. Tony
He's
McGee,
back, y'all.
We're back. Tony
Hey.
McGee. Come on.
Tony McGee, Pro Football Plus. Tony McGee, Pro Football Plus. Tony McGee, Pro Football Plus. Tony McGee. What's up?
Welcome to Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus. Now, the Commanders are 3-3 in the NFC. I know you're not happy, and we don't all like the way they played in the end. But one thing about it, it was a win. And that's all that counts right now. And the last time I heard, I think they were the only NFC team that won last weekend. So let's say some good things about them. So y'all go get some old faces. Alex and got the G here and got Donna. But then I go back and I get the encyclopedia. We call him, well, I don't know if I want to call you that, Adam. You ain't been in so long, but you still the encyclopedia, my man. Adam.
Well, thank you, Tony.
You don't have to think. Hey, you back home now. So when you talk about back home, I had a home on the team when a certain young man came to this team, and he was so good that I even tried to start coaching because I knew that's the only way I was going to be here. But the young man turned out to be one of the best defensive ends ever to put on a uniform. I talk about the young, still young, and only child, C. Rock, man. Welcome to the show, C. What's happening, man?
Hey, everybody. Hey, it's good to be with you.
Well, look here, guys. Y'all look a little happier. We won a game on Sunday. That's what's most important. Now, I know they didn't look as good as they should look and everything, and they gave up sacks. But at the same time, it's a win. With 3-3, I just want to take a look at this team. And Donna, when I first look at it, I look at everything that was happening, everything that's happened on Sunday, and I go right to that offensive line. Some kind of way they must improve that offensive line, unless they're going to have a big problem.
Yeah, Tony, and you're all happy, and we are happy that they got the win. But Tony,
oh, well, you said you. That means you can't throw nobody under the bus. So you're mad now, right?
But Tony, I'm getting ready to tell the truth because they got the win and everything, but it's a lot of things, Tony, that they need to clean up with this team overall on the offensive side of the ball. They only had 70-some yards on the ground. They ran a little bit more. Everybody's still saying that, hey, this team needs to run the ball a little bit more. You look at Sam Howell, and he played pretty good, Tony. But like I said, he's holding on to the ball too long. His decision-making was better, but he's got to get rid of the ball because the 5 sacks that they gave up, probably 4 of those was his fault for stepping right into the defense and creating the sacks. They've got 34 sacks on the year, Tony. You talk about the offensive line needed to be improvement. They're having problems even with the run blocking, and that was supposed to be the strength of this team right now. But it's a win. But moving forward, facing some of those teams they got to face, Tony, they better play a lot better, because if they hadn't played a good team, this would not be a win that we would be talking about today.
Well, you know what? That's just like Christmas present. Everybody wants a certain thing. It's a gift. Take it. That's what we want to do. That's all that matters. But when I look at it,
they won, Tony.
After I look at it, yes, you're right. And I think they're a little bit leery of running the ball right now. But at the same time, you talking about Sam stepping up. He had to step up. At other times, he was throwing it on a 2 count. And as Charles Mann knows, anytime you can get there within the 3 count, you're doing a good pass rush. He has to step up because those outside defensive ends are getting pressures on those tackles. Therefore, he's stepping up. Now, maybe he does hold it a little longer, but to me, the biggest thing is the way the offensive line playing. Charles,
Tony, he stepped right into the sack.
Charles, you played enough defensive line.
Tony, they never stepped into a sack for us, did they? We had to work.
That's what I'm trying to. What happened, Charles? Did we do
Sam
something
Howell
wrong?
is like Santa Claus. He is just giving away all kinds of gifts. Easy sacks,
Thank you, Charles.
I mean, it's true. Atlanta had I don't know. What did they have? 5 sacks in all?
Yeah, they had 5. Wait, they only had 5 when they came in. They doubled it.
Yeah, and then they doubled it. I would just say this about, and I'm going to speak on the defense. I thought the defense played better. I thought the defense started inflicting their will at a certain point in the game. They started a little slow, and that scares me that they started a little slow. They don't really get pressure on the quarterback without bringing a stunt or some kind of a blitz. And one of the things that makes a great defense is you get pressure with your front 4. If you get pressure with your front 4 without having to send other people, then I think you really stand a better chance of winning in this league. And they got to do a better job at that. But they started applying some pressure. I liked what I saw. And I'm going to be very positive today because, it's the Giants week, and we have a tough time against the Giants. So I can be negative next week.
Negative.
It seems Charles didn't have good things to say about the offensive line, so he went right to the defense. See, he's being kind. He's not like you, Donnie. You want to throw him up under the bus, but at the
I
same
didn't throw him under the bus, Tony. I had them riding the bus this week, at least.
Well, as I look at it now, I'm going to ask you a little something, G. This is the first game where I heard fans saying, wide receiver, okay, but they dropped too many balls. What was up? Was that the way he was throwing it? Is because he was rushed or what? But they did drop some catches that they usually make, or they just didn't get it out there. What was transpiring then? Maybe it was because of the pressure on him.
Well, it's never. I mean, if they have a chance to catch it and they drop it, that's not the quarterback's fault or the line's fault. If they have an opportunity to catch the ball and they drop it. And don't get me wrong, typically you'll go through a game, hopefully a game or two where you do perform badly, unfortunately. But for the most part, they were still able to come back and not really come back, but still control the game by playing bad and still win because they were the better team, So sometimes it's okay to play bad when you're the better team, but you still win the football game. But they have to start playing great because they got people coming up now that they have to beat. Like you have to win your interconference games. Like they have to beat the Giants. There's no doubt about that. They have to beat the Giants, and they should beat the Giants. Just got to play well. But in terms of how he's a good quarterback, I think in a few years, like I said before, he'll become a great quarterback. But he does need to learn how to escape, scramble, and run. It's okay to run. You don't have to take the sack. It's okay to run, escape even if you don't pick up a yard, go out of bounds, but don't take the sack. You don't need to do that because, first of all, your linemen know if it's a sack and it shouldn't be a sack. So you don't want to frustrate them because then they get frustrated because they're going to get blamed no matter what. Just kind of like we're doing today. And some of those sacks weren't their fault. I mean, they just weren't.
I don't know about it. I didn't see many that weren't their fault. Maybe,
he literally had like typically.
Maybe if he had a blindfold on and was running backwards, it wasn't their
but
fault.
I mean, like you step up and you escape. I mean, that's the one thing It's not like you don't see it coming.
Thank you, Gary.
Well, where do you escape?
That's one thing you do.
Tony.
You see it coming. You see it coming, so you escape. I mean, like I'm not going to sit there and wait till it gets there.
But
hey, Gary, Tony got blinders on, so he can't see.
But what perplexes me, they're the first few plays, the Commanders will run the ball and do well, and then they go away from it. Alice, do you think they're leery of the run right now? Even towards the end of the game, they ran pretty well. But why didn't they do it in the middle zones? That's where they need to do it.
Tony, I don't know. They do seem to run with some effectiveness. They're not running all over people, but you're right. They seem to get away from it. And once they get away from it, they are really away from it. 2 games back against Chicago, different game. They were trailing the whole time, but still, I think they went like the last 2/3 of that football game without a designed running play. That's a lot. I think they had 50 yards against Atlanta running, 120 passing, 170 yards of total offense, whatever that is. That's not good. But as Gary has taught me and many of our viewers, it's good when you can win a game and you don't play well. Statistically, they played really poorly. Time of possession, all Atlanta. Atlanta 400 yards, Washington under 200. But 3 turnovers and 1 punt return, and that was the ball game. If they get 2 turnovers and not 3, maybe they don't win. They got 3, 2 of them very late, obviously, when it really was in the balance. The punt return was epic, or important, I should say. That they got to win. It wasn't pretty. They didn't beat a great football team. It was on the road. Give them some credit for that. They won the game. They moved forward. Giants, not a great football team either, but as Charles alluded to, Giants give Washington all sorts of fits. So we'll see where this goes. But back to your question, I don't know why they don't at least commit a little bit more to the run. Robinson runs well. And there's times where you're like, yeah, that's it. Let's see that again.
Exactly.
And you don't see it for like 2 quarters.
Exactly.
But they won the game. It's hard to nitpick, I think, after a win. Certainly, had they lost, there would be a lot more to chew on.
Hey,
Well,
Tony,
you know what,
could
Adam, you follow the team quite a bit, and I know you follow Kansas City, and now people are starting to say that EB, as Donna calls him, the rest of him, he's the coach. But is that the tendency he had in Kansas City to want to pass first and run second? Is that the same thing, Adam, he had last year? Is that why he's bringing it here?
It is, Tony, but I'll tell you, too, it's different personnel. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is arguably the best quarterback in the National Football League. With that in mind, he has the ability to do things that a player such as Sam Howell cannot. And then when you have Tyreek Hill, when you have Nicole Hartman and the speed that the Chiefs had at wide receiver, not that the Commanders don't, but when you have that kind of speed, you have Travis Kelce, it gives Bieniemy a lot more options in terms of offensive play calling. But I'll tell you, Tony, this Giant game concerns me for a couple reasons. Number one, it's a division game against a team that's desperate for a win. It's windy over at the Meadowlands. It's cold. You know, the ball bounces wrong. You get a turnover. That could shift the momentum of the game. But I'll add one more very important thing. This team has really struggled with quarterbacks who run well. It has given they have given them fits all year long. And whether it's Daniel Jones or Tyrod Taylor starting for the Giants this coming week, that's going to be a problem for their defensive line. It's going to be vital. They keep them in the pocket, they rush the passer, and they don't allow him to escape for huge chunks of yardage. Otherwise, the Giants offense can eat the Commanders defense alive.
Hey, Tony, let's go back. Tony, let's go back to that Kansas City. And you asked Adam as far as if Eric Bieniemy is trying to do the same thing with that. The only thing that's really different as far as Kansas City and the Commanders is that they had a veteran quarterback in Mahomes. So right there is totally different. But when you look at the wide receivers that the Commanders got, they're solid. They're not much different than Kansas City. Kelce, of course, but Logan Thomas has been playing well. But go back to the offensive line a little bit. Talking to some of the guys last week in the locker room, they were talking about those 57 plays that they did back to back as far as throwing, and it's hard on the offensive line overall. So when you look at this Commander, Tony, 193 yards total to the Falcons, 402 that the defense gave up. And then on third down, they were only 2 for 10 on third down, and they only held the ball for 20 some minutes to they're 30 some. So they've got to be able on the offensive side of the ball to control the ball a little bit more than what they're doing. But when you go back to the running game and everybody's talking about they need to run the ball a lot more and all of that. But how can you run the ball if you're not getting the blocking up front? So it has to coincide with all of that, because B-Rob ran that ball for the touchdown that he had because he was taking people with him. So I think that when you look at Eric Bieniemy, he's doing what he possibly can in trying to put the scheme together with the quarterback that he has, the offensive line that he has. And if he doesn't have all those tools, this is what we're seeing each week.
Well, you got a point there, and I'll have to answer that when we come back. But at the same time, just like they say, the first time is an incident, the second time is a coincidence, and the third game is a pattern. And that's what this team has. They got a pattern. They don't see if they can run right away to me, and I think that's what they should do more. But when we come back, I think what Adam said, we better listen to. This Giants team could be very tough for this defense. And I saw some things on the defense I hadn't seen prior to this. So we'll talk about it when we get back. But Donna, I'll let you finish throwing them. Why don't you go out and get a truck or something, and we'll throw them.
I had them on the bus, Tony. They were on the bus.
Or you'll be happy. We'll be right back.
got to do better on offense in the second half. I feel like that wasn't our best coming out, but we fell on our defense and they did a hell of a job. And that's what you want. Offense doing their job to contain, and defense doing their job, and they helped us out big time at the end.
What do you think was the biggest difference today?
Defense. I give that one all to the defense. I think we got 3 picks today. That's major. You do that, you probably win in every game right there. So shout out to the defense making big time plays, and like I said, we just got to do our part on helping them in the second half.
What do you think was the biggest difference today?
We just played together, and just everybody doing what they're supposed to do, like technique wise. Guys not trying to press to make plays. I feel like we just stayed in there and did our thing.
This secondary came up big when they needed. Fuller got his, then you got the pick. Talk a little bit about the secondary and what you all did today.
Honestly, like I said, it started in practice. All that stuff that I talked about, being disciplined, being detailed, doing our job. When the play came to us, we made those plays. And that's all we can ask. There was nothing that changed from those previous week. We just been more disciplined and more detailed in our coverage, how we fit the run, how we run to the ball, how we help each other and support each other. And we stayed disciplined from the first quarter all the way to the fourth. And then we always say it's the most disciplined team that will win this game,
For me, I was just playing basically like two-man. The ball, I turned around, the ball was thrown right to me. I tried to get my other hand around, but he's kind of big, so I just tried to bat it down and just get the stop and get us off the field. We stayed together and we just played as a unit. No matter what happened, no matter the touchdowns we gave up, everybody just stayed together, stayed locked in, no matter the touchdowns we gave up. But we just try to come out and just play each play, one play at a time.
This team has been looking for a big spark as far as special teams on the punt returns. Just talk about that 61-yard one that you ran back and just missed putting it into the end zone.
Yeah, that's the main thing. I should have scored. Got to stay a little loose over there on the sidelines, but I just wanted to be a sport. The game at the time was just kind of going back and forth. Both teams just trying to get it going, and we was able to break one open. The guys did a really good job of blocking and creating a lane for me, and I was able to hit it. And obviously, I definitely wanted to score, but I was able to set the offense up in good field position.
I was able to hit it, and you know what? When we get ready to talk about our special teams a little bit. Man, it's going to be nice to finally say they did something good. But let's go back to it. Everyone seemed to think that on Sunday the defense played a lot better. Well, they did play a lot better. But one thing I did see, I didn't like the way they were controlling the line of scrimmage. They were playing up and down the line of scrimmage, but not on the the adversary's side. That's the way you want to play in that defensive backfield. Now, coming up with these Giants, it's going to be very important. We go back to that offense. They got to keep the defense off the field more. That's what they did on Sunday, and that seemed to help them, C-Rock. But at the same time, tell me what you think about this defensive line with the 4 number ones and a good guy coming off the bench who had a couple of sacks. Where do you think this defensive line is right now? They starting to learn how to play together now that Chase is back. Do you see? I mean, we already know Sweat's having in pain. They're having very good years, but the other 3 or 4 got to really come on, Charles. Where do you see they are right now?
Well, I think you're spot on, Tony, in your assessment. I think the defense, they haven't. First of all, they haven't played together very long. 3 of them have, but I think Montez Sweat is playing very well.
Mm-hmm.
Out of all other the front 4, I think Montez Sweat is playing the most consistent, and he's getting to the ball. He's defeating the guy in front of him. Deron Payne obviously is a game breaker. He can wreck the whole game by just his presence. But I don't know about. I mean, I hate saying this, but I'm still suspect with Jack Del Rio. And maybe I need to look a little bit closer at his scheme and what he's trying to accomplish, because I'm just not seeing. It seems like as much talent as you have, they should be ferocious. They should be, 3 and out, and turnovers should be every week because there's so much pressure on those front 7 guys. I haven't been necessarily all the way happy with the linebacking core, because you've got that big front 4 up in there. The linebackers need to flow off of them and make the plays. And a lot of times they're flowing freely with no offensive lineman on them, because Deron and Jonathan Allen are taking on 2 guys. The linebackers should make the play. And I'm not seeing that. At least it's happening, but it's 6 or 7 yards down the field instead of, a 1 or 2 yard play.
Hey, Tony, it's funny that Charles said, as far as the pressure, he's not seeing that. When you look at this Commanders defense, they had 3 sacks on Sunday. They've got 19 for the year. Don't you think that's a kind of like a low number when you look at their sack total pressure wise? And then, they made a couple of changes, because Jack Del Rio last week was asked, hey, in the secondary, these guys are getting torched. Why not play more zone versus man-to-man? Well, he made some changes this week because they knew they had a running back, as far as the other Robinson, who they kept in check, only 30-some yards. But Danny Johnson replaced Emmanuel Forbes, who got, benched. He didn't even get into the game, but Ron Rivera said that he wanted to give this young cornerback a chance to just reset a little bit, because once you've been benched and you've got all of that on your mind, as far as the 2 games that he had, you almost need to reset. But when you look at this defense overall, both you or Charles can jump in, because of you're on that defensive side. And Charles alluded to, as far as Jack Del Rio, I'm looking at, again, like Charles said, they've got all this talent. Probably the linebacker position is the one that you still have question marks. But why are you not seeing more from this defensive front? And also the secondary finally played much better. They had the 3 picks. They got 5 for the year, so that was key for them also. But where's the hiccups on defense?
Well, let me jump in, Tony. Just say this real quick about the defense. If I was coaching them, put myself in Jack Del Rio's place. What I found as a player, what I found that helped is when I was being aggressive. The whole concept of a defense is you're supposed to be the aggressor. And if you're playing, a 2 gap, that means you grab the offensive lineman in front of you, and you've got the gap on the right side and you have the gap on the left side. That's called 2 gap. That's hard to do and be aggressive. You basically stalemate the blocker, and then you've got this hole or you've got that hole. what I think they should try to do, and I need to look and see because I don't see it happening consistently, is pick a spot. So the linebacker behind you, listen to this, Donna. I'm gonna give you a little education here real quick. So the linebacker behind. No, this will be
No,
helpful.
I'm messing with you. I'm messing
You're
with
an
you.
athlete, so you get it. So
Oh, I get it. I
Oh,
got you,
wait, now,
Charles.
you got to say what an athlete means. Don't just throw that
I
word
got
out
you,
there.
Charles. Go on and
We've
finish,
heard she's
Charles.
an athlete.
She's
It's
a
a
former
rumor she's an
athlete.
athlete.
He's saying that I understand. So go on,
Yes.
Charles.
So listen, so an offensive, I mean the defensive lineman, I mean the linebacker behind the defensive guy, sometimes we would have a stunt and the stunt is only between two people. So the lineman could be patted on his hip and that's telling him to go that way, to take that gap. And then the linebacker that patted him on the hip takes the other gap. So you've got both gaps controlled, but you got them controlled in a way where you're being aggressive. You're going into the hole, not standing there, taking the block, and then making the tackle on your back. Does that make sense?
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's being more aggressive. And we
And
should be
what you're saying
doing
is
those.
they need to play on the other side of the ball, and that's what we've been saying
Yes.
the last 2 or 3 weeks here. It's not you're not winning it when you're on the line of scrimmage or you push back. You're not winning the battle. You got to be in their backfield. And as far as schematically, I did see them make some change. They had the 2 outside linebackers speeding the chase, and then sometimes Sweat. They stand up. They have 5 defensive linemen in there now. That's a good change, but at the same time, you take away from the linebacker. You say, well, why is this not happening for them? They're so worried about the middle zone. If you heard the defensive back say in the interviews that Donna did, said we was in a cover 2. For all you fans, what a cover 2 means, that outside wide receiver is going to run towards the cornerback, but that cornerback is going to push him into the safety. That safety going to keep him in front, but try to keep that middle zone where the linebacker has to watch him. That's where they're getting into. So these linebackers may be a little bit worried about that middle section, so they're backing off, and that's what Charles was saying. They're not aggressive. But when I look at this defense, I'm just like Charles. The way we played was we played on their side of the ball, not our side. And that's what I'm seeing right now. But overall, if you take a look at this, and Gary, you look at the receivers coming up now and everything, this line have to really start getting more pressure, and they are number 1 draft choice. And I hate to keep reiterating that, but at the same time, it's a truth. And we got to see that more, even if they're not getting the help. Now, granted, defensive backs weren't covering as well. They had a better week this week. But at the same time, I feel like this as a defensive lineman, and Charles will tell you the same thing. It's our job to get to the quarterback, whether we have good coverage or not. That's what we get paid to do. His whole defense, they got little deficiency. But one thing we did see last week, and Alex, you can jump in on this, we saw improvement.
Tony, yeah, I keep going back to the 3 picks. If they don't get those 3 picks, defensively, the Falcons were having their way. 400 and some yards given up by the Washington defense. Washington offense was less than half of that, but 3 picks. I mean, the one fellow told Don in the locker room, the DB, I forget his name, hey, it was the 3 interceptions. It's like that's a game changer. Those 3 plays won the Commanders the game despite deficiencies up front. They sure look like they're about to get pressure. Chase Young looks so imposing on that right side. I'm watching on TV, and he's standing up sort of like LT used to look back in the day. I'm not saying he's LT, obviously, but it looks like it's going to be great. And then it's not. They get plenty of pressure. They've won plenty of games this year of the 3 where the defense has been stout. That was not the case, Sonny, in Atlanta. The 3 picks on the back end won it for them. But it takes a team. And to quote Gary Clark, they didn't play that well, but they still won the game, which is a mark of, if not a good team, a team that is on its way to being good. Defensively, they can improve in a bunch of ways. If you can get 3 picks every game, you're going to win a lot of games no matter what your offense does and no matter what the rest of your defense does. I'd like to think that those picks had something to do with pressure. That it wasn't just a phenomenal play by the DB. I'd like to think that the pressure up front, and much of this is so much more nuanced than I would understand. I'm learning a ton listening to you and Charles talk about gaps and so forth. I'd like to think that the front, even though maybe it didn't jump out on the stat sheet, had something to do with those 3 picks, 2 of which clearly were the difference in the ball game.
Gary wants to talk about the offense. That's what he wants to talk about.
Well, I mean, in terms of the offense, I think our receiving core is the best part of our offense. So I think we have to throw first to set up the run to get more running. So I'm going to be okay that, I mean, they run the ball okay. The running back they have, he's going to be a really good running back in the future. Right now, he's a good running back. He's going to be a great running back in the future, I meant. But as soon as he learned to run the daylight, he did it. I saw one play where he did run the daylight, did okay. He almost was caught in the backfield, but he ran to the open area and picked up 5 yards instead of getting tackled in the backfield. But typically, he would just try to run over everybody. But they should pass first, run second. I mean, I'm okay with the running game not as getting as many. It's just that way. I mean, just don't get me wrong. If they're able to pass the ball like they should be able to pass the ball, because they got 4 really good receivers. I mean, really good receivers. Then the run will come. It automatically will come. Like typically when the games that they won through passing, and the run was able to come. But it's always going to be that way because their power is in their receivers, not their running game. It's just not.
See, and we're not just saying we want to power in the running game, and after we come back from this break, we get a chance to talk about this first team. But what we're saying is the running game can help the defense, and that's why we're bringing this in right now, because you keep your defense fresh, keep them ready to go. So that's why we're looking at the running game. So really what Gary is saying, it takes the whole team. It's just like a pass isn't completed on one person because of the whole 11 people out there. Same thing with the run. If the offense can keep our defense from being out there a lot, then they'll do better. But speaking of a lot, for the first time in 6 weeks, we got something special to talk about. I can't believe it. Like Muhammad Ali said, I jump in the bed and the lights aren't even out. We'll be back in a minute.
What's up?
For all you fans that couldn't get your food because you was wondering what I was saying about Muhammad Ali, the guy used to be so fast that he would say, I turn off the lights and I could get in the bed before they go dark. That's what I was talking about. But speaking of that, it's been a lot. See, y'all too young. Y'all need to get in my era, okay? But speaking of a long time, Adam, it's been a long time since we could talk about special teams and them doing anything special. Jameson came all the way back from New York to make a run for us. What do you think, Adam? Is he going to help us? Is this big, having that play from the special team player?
Well, let's talk about Jamison Crowder for a minute. He was signed this season, after the season started, to this team's practice squad. And by the way, the return you saw on Sunday was the longest this team had since 2015, when Jamison Crowder was the return man. So they brought him back with the intention that he could spring their special teams, get a better field position. We saw that on Sunday against Atlanta. He was tremendous. And I look for him to be continuing to get better each week as this team's primary return man.
He shouldn't have got caught, though. He should not have gotten caught.
You're right, Donna, but
the fact is, what you had to bring that up? The man that ran 70 yards, he had on the uniform. He was a little
I'm only saying what he said. He said that he should not have gotten caught because he said I should have stretched a little bit before I got in there. Because if you look at that run, he almost got caught before he did get caught, but he stepped it up a little bit. And I think that he just ran out of gas also, but he said that he should have stretched and then he would have been in the end zone. But that was key, Tony, because that was the spark that this team needed at that moment, because it led to that touchdown by Gibson. So the special teams, we talked about how important they were important in that Atlanta game. But Tony, hop into the NFL with the Giants coming up. Adam talked a little bit about the Giants and how huge that game is. The Giants blew it. They had opportunity to beat Buffalo. I mean, just before the half on the 1 yard line, they didn't get it in. At the end of the game, when they could have won the game, couldn't get it in because they passed the ball. They just made dumb plays after dumb plays. Daniel Jones may not be back this week. Tyrod Taylor will. They got Barkley as the running back. This Giants game is key up there in the Meadowlands.
It really is. And you know what they were talking about the Giants, and the thing about it is the Giants really gave that game away, and that's what bothers me. But they are going to be a tough cookie for this Washington team for the simple reason that they are just they kind of match up. Like last week, we said one thing. We said Atlanta and Washington was so much similar that the one thing that was going to happen would be mistakes would make really be a big part of who won the game, and that happened. Now you go to these New York Giants. They were very physical. They had a couple of bad calls. Even on the last play, the guy got held. But one thing that really scared me is they were controlling that line of scrimmage, and they, even though they weren't scoring a lot of points or whatever, the Giants should have won that game. That's what's scary about this whole thing, and they're coming up. Right now, this is what Washington has to do. They got to look at the Giants the same way they look at Philadelphia. Now, it's great we got that special teams and everything, but the system, the offense and defense have really got to pick their games up because this is a dangerous game this weekend. Then when you look at all the NFC teams' lost so far on Sunday, this really helps them. Now, they're a 50-50 team, and let's be truthful about it. That's what they are. They won 3 and they've lost 3. They're 50-50. This is the time they start to pick it up, guys, and anybody can jump in and won't. What do you see with this Giants team? Are they becoming dangerous? I mean, their running back comes out there with an offensive line. They were able to stay in that game, and they had 2 or 3 new offensive linemen that hadn't even played there before. So the Giants are a very dangerous team.
Tony, come on. The Giants are one of the worst teams in the NFL.
Okay.
I know it's a divisional game, but let's not give them all that credit. Buffalo just played terrible themselves on that side of the ball and still came up with a win. But like
Don't you think they played terrible because they made them?
The Giants made stupid plays, Tony. Charles, come on. Do you see the Giants?
Let me help Donna out with a couple of things. So stats and history, reason why they keep the statistics because they matter, and you can tell when you're going to win or you're going to lose based on your stats. On defense, the defense has to hold the opponent to 17 points or less. They should be able to do that. This is the Giants, who don't often score very much. The defense also needs to get 3 sacks. The defense also needs to win the time of possession. They need to be able to get on and off the field faster. The defense also needs to keep the ball carrier under 100 yards rushing. These are stats that over time show wins and losses. They're keeping these stats, and I know these stats from when I was on the field some 35 years ago. And so we also have to win the turnover battle. Alex was talking about the turnover battle. Well, right now we're -2. We're -2 on the turnover battle. That's not winning football. So we're lucking up, as Gary said, a win is a win and all that. But in the end, these stats are going to reign true and show that, why we lost the games we lost. So we need to be focused. I don't know if they're looking at this, but I know Gary and I know, and Tony, you remember, every week, Joe Gibbs showed us on Monday, and then he showed us again on Saturday and Saturday night before the game, and then again on that next Monday, and we knew those stats, and those stats would show whether you win, lose, or draw. And in this case, we need to win those points on defense in order to take this game against the Giants.
Hey, did y'all check it out how he said, me and Gary, we knew it. Tony, you may remember.
That was a long time ago, Tony.
Hey, Tony, but the crazy thing is you don't know which Washington team is going to show up, because when you look at this team from back to back, week in and week out, you don't know which team is going to show up. When have they had back-to-back solid games? All season long, they have not. So you don't know when their back is up against the wall and they've got to win, then they come out and play a little better, but they haven't put 2 solid games back to back together. And the Giants is a big divisional game. What team is going to show up this week?
Yeah, but not even putting back to back. What you have to look at what the Giants were able to do against Buffalo and what Buffalo did to the Washington team. That's what worries me. But at the same time, Charles is right about the stats. He answered your question from a couple of segments ago, Donna. You said, did we have a low number of sacks? No, did you hear what he said? 3 a game is 18 sacks. They got 19. So the defensive line is not doing bad in that. But let's start looking at other teams. It seemed like teams are catching up. And one of the teams I told you guys was going to be so good was the 49ers. But what did I say? They can't afford injuries. They got 3 people. Big Trey got hurt. They had McCaffrey got hurt, and a wide receiver got hurt. They may be in a little trouble. But it was 2 calls that were so horrendous in that game that they made against them, and then the kicker missed. They should have won that game. But it seems like now the 49ers and even the Eagles, teams are starting to catch up and understand what they're trying to do, and they're stopping them more. Do you guys see that as well? And we got about a minute, so whoever answers, give me a minute's worth.
Well, yeah, I want to just ask everybody, maybe when we come back from the break, is what's happening with the Philadelphia Eagles? What are you seeing with them? First time that the Jets have beat them in 13 tries, but it's the Philadelphia Eagles having problems because their offensive coordinator and the defensive coordinator is no longer with them. But what do you see the problem with the Eagles right now? I mean, I know they won 5 and lost 1, but it's not the same Eagles team that we were talking about at the beginning of the season.
You know what they call that in the locker room? Somebody to figure them out. We'll be back in a minute.
I'm gonna do leg press. I'm gonna do leg extension. Well, I had to pick that because it's my body, but I'm gonna have a problem with leg press in my back. I got a little sciatica going on, so I don't want to aggravate that. So I'm gonna do 4 on this side, 4 on this side. I'm gonna go up like that and do 4. That gives me 8, but I'm gonna stay on the same leg. Up. See the pause in there? Again. We ain't trying to do this. None of that. You mess up your joint when you do that. So get it up, lock it, down slow. Throw it up, down slow. Throw it up, it's gonna hurt more. Woo! And again, because you're starting new with this Tabata stuff, you don't have to go 4 straight. You can go 1, 2, you can alternate. I developed that. In my DNA. This is you focusing on your quad. Everything you do when you're running, especially as a running back. Yeah, we do a lot of leg press, but this right here, extension, when you got to press and hold that at some point, plays a role when you're running. Oh, my God, it's burning like crazy. Oh, Lord. Now, this leg, you guys, is my hurt leg. I hurt this in 2014, a meniscus tear. So this is why I'm always a little bit more gentle. So you probably won't see me go stay up longer because I don't want to aggravate it. And at times it gives me problems, especially running on concrete. Running on hills, it doesn't bother me. So you have to do those exercises, and then exercises that work those muscles around that you want to do as well. Like this one right here. Again, I've done this many times because I need to get this knee stronger. 10 minutes, that's all you need. And that depends on the area too. If I'm doing my quads or my hamstrings, I'm doing that for about 15, 20 minutes. But my knees, it's about 10, 12 minutes. And normally I would do hamstrings. It's not gonna happen today. Just want to show you guys what I would have done and then top of if I was pressed for time.
Well, Ricky Irvin's with another great workout. He was working on the legs and also talking about injuries. If you had any injuries, overcoming, the legs. I know that Tony and myself have had knee injuries. Probably all of you all up here have had some kind of leg injury. And Ricky talks about the importance of leg workout and strengthening those muscles around the injury. So great workout again. And all I know, Tony, is Ricky said that he is coming for you because he worked me out last week and I still can't raise my arms.
Beware of what you ask. You mess around and get a surprise. I got one good one
That
left.
would
Tell
be
him,
one.
don't make me waste it.
That would be a surprise if you came to work out.
Don't make me waste it. I got one left. It's dangerous too. But speaking of one left, we look around the league and you look at both sides. You look at the AFC and the NFC. It seems now that teams are settling down and more teams are starting to figure out teams, just like Philadelphia. They know that the quarterback is going to make most of the plays, whatever way he does it. So they're starting the game plan for that. Same thing happening up in Maryland. But what we got to look at, what teams are getting better as a team. One team that's scary to me that they're not that good, they seem to win. It's like Pittsburgh. For some reason, that team is good. And they find a way to win. They don't have as much talent. But then you go on the other side of the register and you got a team like Miami, who I even took this week because I'd have got enamored with scoring, which I know I shouldn't be. But anytime a team can score like that, they're always in the game. So, you start looking around the league, things are starting to even out. But the teams that we put at the front, and I know no one has said anything, so jump into it. Even with people hurt, Cleveland Browns are still making things happen.
And they didn't even have Deshaun Watson.
Don't say it too quick.
Tony. They didn't have Deshaun Watson. But, Tony, a big game that's coming up that you just talked about, Miami and the Eagles. Talk about that game. And they're playing up in Philadelphia. Philadelphia just lost to the Jets. Miami, we know the weapons they've got there. How do you all see that game playing out?
Depends on the weather. A lot of it depends on the weather, quite honestly.
That's going to be a big part of it. The weather going to be a big part of it. And
well, the game is in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
That's important to me because the Eagles were on the road when they lost to the Jets. They'll be at home against the Dolphins. I think they'll play a lot better.
And
what can they do better, Adam?
Well, one, they cannot turn the ball over. They did that multiple times against the Jets, and it cost them. If they protect the ball, don't turn it over, they should win against the Dolphins, even though Miami is the highest scoring team in the NFL.
Well, I think Gary said
that's going to be an interesting game, Tony.
Going to be like, and that weather could be a very big part of it up there. At the same time, we always look at defense win championships. So I look at them as being it's going to be an entertaining game, but for some reason in the back of my head, I feel like they're going to beat Philadelphia.
Yeah, Tony, look at this.
Look at this. It doesn't rain. As long as it doesn't rain. If it doesn't rain,
Miami.
I think Miami beats Philadelphia.
Yeah, Miami is first offense.
I'm sorry.
No, Miami's. I just took a needle for it. I just shot it up before the game, so it was all good.
Hey, Tony, let me give you some
hamstrings are always bothering him, Donna.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Tony, let me give you some breakdowns. Let me give you some breakdowns about the two teams, how even they are. Miami, first on offense, Philadelphia, second. 22nd defense as far as the Dolphins, 13th with the Eagles. And the Dolphins are first in pass and rushing, where the Eagles is 8th and 2nd. But it's almost like a desperate game for Philadelphia. But talk a little bit about Jalen Hurts. This is a guy that hasn't gotten on track yet because those 3 picks that he threw, uncharacteristics of them. But what's happening with him as far as what you're seeing from him this year so far?
Well, teams are starting to scheme more on him. See, last year he was an aberration, more or less. He had just come to the Eagles. They didn't know the Eagles were going to do well, but he turned out to be the quarterback. But everybody in the back of their mind feel like he's having recovered from being benched in Alabama and all that. But he's a very good player. But what happened now, he wants to show everybody he's still just a great quarterback, not just one that can run, they can squat 600 pounds. And so a couple of those interceptions wasn't really his fault. They were not bad throws, but they were tipped or either the receiver didn't get it. So what they're doing now is teams are trying to settle in on what he does and everything, and that's what's happening to them. But the one thing you said is key, and you guys know that I'm saying it best. The one thing about them, they ran so much last year They were a running team. And when you have a running team with a good defense and receivers that can't be stopped, they're very dangerous. Some kind of way, everybody knows now he's going to go to Brown. So everybody's looking for Brown. So now what it is, this quarterback is going to have to adjust his game. And I think they need to go back to the running game, and it will help them. But I
Well,
still
A.J. Brown's
He's still counting his money. Jalen is still counting his money. That's his problem.
Is that what
You know,
he's on the way to bank, huh?
Well, Tony,
he got
A.J.
so much
Brown
money
had
that-
133 yards. But
I know it.
Charles, what about the Lions and the Ravens? The Ravens bounced back, got that win up the road this week. A Lions team, Tony talked about them at the beginning of the season. Looking at the Lions, at the Ravens, how do you see that game playing out, everybody?
Well, first of all, it's at the Ravens. That's a home field advantage is an advantage when you play in Baltimore at the Ravens Stadium. But also, this Detroit Lions team is sneaking up on some people. I don't know if y'all noticed. You saw them. There are a couple of wins they have there. I'm impressed with them. I'm starting to watch them and take note with them. So
not just a couple of wins, Charles. They had them, and they showed on Sunday that they're one of the best teams in winning over the past 2 or 3 years, not just now. And they said we saw that, and before as last year, their offense was way ahead of the defense. They've made some moves this year, and their defense is coming on. They say this team is really odds-on favorite to win their division. Win their beat Chicago and Green Bay, which we know why. But at the same time, they have quietly become a very good team.
People forget they beat Kansas City opening night.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you got the next game, and Alex, and jump in here. The Chargers at the Chiefs. Are the Chiefs, even though they're winning, they're struggling right now. Eric Bieniemy, I know everybody's saying, hey, he's gone. And Patrick Mahomes said that right now he's struggling as a quarterback. How do you see that matchup with the Chargers at the Chiefs?
Come on, give it to us quick now.
I will. I'll still take the Chiefs. I'll still take Mahomes over probably anybody. They're not unbeatable. They lost, as Adam mentioned, first game of the season. Until otherwise, I'm taking the Chiefs.
Yeah, and you're right about that. And everybody talk about the quarterback, and I think that's really the big part of the Chiefs. You do see them stumbling a little bit right now, but right now I don't think there's no decisive team. And you got to even look at like Major League Baseball. We just had Atlanta, who had 5 starters on the All-Star team, and they couldn't beat the wild card team. It all depends on week to week how your team prepares and what happens. That's why I say right now, even though the Commanders are 3-3, they're still in good position. Now, when you talk about positions, the next segment, we got to start talking about picks. Man, we are stinking it up this year. We got one person over 500, and he's only one game over it. And the rest of us just guessing. We're going to probably go to the elementary school and get our picks from those kids later. They'll probably do better. We'll be back in a minute.
In the Minute with Tony and Donna. You can catch them weekly on their podcast, and you can also subscribe to their YouTube channel, In the Minute. Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus Speakers Bureau offers you various opportunities to connect with former and current players along with Tony and the crew. For more information, go to redmagplus.com Speakers Bureau.
One more thing.
39 years. Not many shows can claim a streak like that, but Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus sure can. Tony McGee, a burgundy and gold legend on the field and for decades now on the air, is once again excited to bring his one-of-a-kind program to his legion of fans across the Mid-Atlantic. How to last so long? By always delivering unique, insightful, entertaining, and oh yeah, fun, lots of fun, week in and week out. Tony's cast includes the legendary Gary Clark, the impeccable Donna Hopkins on the burgundy and gold beat for decades now, as well as icons from Washington football, past and present, not to mention the Pro Football Hall of Famers who flock to Tony's show year in and year out. There is not a show dedicated to football fans like this one, and the proof is in the almost 4 decades that Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus has been the go-to stop for fans who want content that only Tony and crew can deliver. This season promises to be yet another exciting one for the team, the league, the show, and its fans, and we want you to be a part of it. There are sponsorship opportunities to fit your business's goals, 30 and 60-second targeted commercial spots, weekly segments dedicated to promoting your brand, on-air guest opportunities for you to share your company's mission, and so on. We'd love to discuss tailoring a sponsorship program that is just right for you, both in scope and in cost. For sponsorship opportunities, call 703-282-0792 or email info@regnatplus.com. Be a part of this historic season on this historic show, Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus. 39 years and the millions of viewers over those years can't be wrong.
I want to thank my crew. You did a great job this week. We know we got a lot in front of us. As you look at the picture, you know we're not doing well on that. But what you have to do with this team, look at what they are. Don't worry about what they used to be, but have faith in what they can be. And they'll be all right. And as we always say, we never say goodbye. We say in the minute.